Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. Ahead of the governorship elections in Nigeria, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, has extended additional human and logistic support to police commands and formations across the country for effective election security management during next Saturday's governorship and state House of Assembly elections.
The additional support includes the deployment of personnel, operational vehicles, non-lethal weapons, personal protective equipment, that's body armor, and anti-riot equipment, amongst others. In a statement provided to the Punch News, the Force Public Relations Olumuyiwa Adejobi said that the IGP has charged all strategic police managers to deploy the additional distributed operational assets and manpower to ensure the emplacement of a proper security arrangement for the upcoming elections, as all hands must be on deck to ensure that the elections are conducted in a peaceful and secure environment. Joining us this morning to talk about these issues is a security analyst, Dickson Osagie. He joins us to discuss this. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right. Now, so we're counting down the days. The elections are on Saturday. It's just Thursday, Friday, 3 days away, right? As we look at that, let's look back at the previous elections, the February 25th elections. How would you assess how the presidency or how the government fared in terms of providing security for Nigerian citizens who came out to vote?
Well, thank you. Relatively, the last election was marred with violence. We also what transpired in some parts of Lagos, Southeast, and other parts of the states. When we talk about election security, looking at the administrative processes, we need to build trust in the government. We need to build trust in the INEC as well. But for me, I would like to personalize that I'm so disappointed in the processes. Before the election, we saw drums of parade. The military were parading the street. We call it show of force. When you activate show of force, that means you're trying to tell society that hey, this is a no-nonsense time. But I still see a lot of guys going into their opponent's stronghold. Cutting away ballot boxes, and I just feel that the show of force was defeated. That's what I feel.
Right. Well, obviously it was defeated, but I think we probably should have also known, because the law also states that policemen are not meant to be armed at polling units, so it makes it difficult. But I remember that we did speak with, one of the police spokespersons on election day, and his argument was that the policemen are not meant to be armed, and so it makes it difficult for them to carry out their duties. Do you agree with that a policeman simply not being armed, even if he's present at the polling unit, makes him almost like a civilian, and he's not able to protect voters, neither is able to protect the polling unit generally?
The difference between a policeman and a soldier, the difference between a policeman and a civilian is the arms and ammunition. For me, I disagree with his position, because when we talk about security, the whole essence of activating the policing system is for deterrence purposes. Now, if we need to activate deterrence purposes, that is to say that we need to stop those guys that think they can come to the enemy, to their opponent's camp to cut away ballot boxes, and you are sending a policeman there without arms and ammunition. It's just like an ordinary civilian, because he's just putting on the uniform for fashion's sake. I would advise that, in nearest time, they should be given small arms. We have the concealable arms, the pistol. Conceal your pistol there. And without the information of the populace, because you don't need to show force, in the election points where they are casting their votes. But if you keep on sending these police officers there without arms and ammunition, I think it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of time as well, because you are even endangering their lives as well. Because you can't put me on uniform, project me in a high-risk, prone environment, and expect me to survive any assault coming from the aggressors. So if the Nigerian police are not ready to be deploying the police guys with arms and ammunition, let me say pistol, not AK-47, because pistol is concealable. So they should carry out concealable arms if they need to be there. If they can't carry out, if they can't give them concealable arms, forget about that.
I want us to look at the root of the problem.
All right.
And let's be realistic about the Nigerian society and where we live.
Okay.
The Nigerian policeman, even with an AK-47, at a polling unit in Alimosho or somewhere, one of the rural areas of Lagos State, for example, is as good as a policeman not being there at all. If we're being honest. Because when these things happen, a lot of times you do not see the reaction. They fear for their lives regardless, whether they're armed or not armed. Yes, he might be able to protect himself a little better if he had, an AK-47 rifle or he had a pistol. But a lot of times, I think the foundation of this is the lack of fear or respect or regard for the Nigerian police. And that's why when you see them, even if they are 10 in number, it doesn't stop thugs from attacking a polling station or polling unit and casting away ballot boxes, knowing that the police will do absolutely nothing. Lack of regard for the police, lack of fear of the police, lack of fear of Nigeria's criminal justice system, because I don't know of anybody who has been prosecuted in the last 4 elections that we've had. 2 people that have been arrested for snatching ballot box and have been sentenced to jail. I don't remember anyone like that.
All right, interesting. You see, the whole essence of policing is not to put fear in the public. When we talk about security, it's in totality the freedom from fear. When society begins to, experience fear or live in a state of fear, security has been defeated. Now, coming back to your question, I think it's a very good point because if we have people that are not afraid of the policing system, that means our criminal justice system has been defeated. Now, when a citizen is being arrested by the police carry out the arrest. Carry out the arrest of a criminal. The criminal passed through the court system and from there to the prison. Now, most of these guys goes to the prison and come out more hardened. Yesterday, a newspaper agency called me for an interview, and what we're talking about was someone in prison awaiting death sentence in a death row. Carry out a crime against someone outside the prison, and he successfully, embezzled that person about 17 million naira. So that tells you that our criminal justice system has a role to play. Yeah. Because when we talk about, that's when we talk about recidivism. Recidivism is, going to the prison, coming back more hardened. There's no change in the prison system. So there's a problem with the administration of criminal justice system. Then coming back to your policemen with arms and ammunition, and people are not scared. I think it's because of their foundation. There's a big problem within the Nigerian policing system. One, fire discipline, and through command negligence. I have talked about command negligence time without number, in the sense that even from DPO, people are not even afraid of DPOs. People are not even afraid of police officers, simply because they've romanced the society with corruption. They've romanced the society with what's it called? Bail. Go to the police station. Bail is free, and police your friend, and you still carry out bail. Thank God for this Naira policy. Bail is free. I don't think you want to ask me to transfer money to your account as a police officer, because it's going to be traceable. So we have a lot to do in this coming administration. Policing-wise, we have a lot to do, because we need to take out police brutality from our societal system, because Nigeria has been suffering from multi-dimensional brutality.
All right, let's talk about a conversation that was the subject of debate, I think, sometime last week on the internet, and it was about dogs, taking dogs to the polling units. One of the things you've mentioned would be the fact that a number of Nigerians have lost, they've lost faith, or they're afraid, they've lost fear for the police. And I think that they've lost is faith in the police. For a number of them, they've talked about bringing their dogs because it would make them feel safer. Now, if we look outside Nigeria, for example, in the UK, there's a hashtag of dogs at the polling station. There are rules guiding that, but it's not outlawed for you to be able to take your dogs to the polling units in certain parts of the country. Is this maybe a conversation that should be revisited? Should people be allowed to take their dogs to make them feel more secure? Even though the police has come out outright to say that it is criminal to take your dogs with you to the police station.
Okay, when we talk about security application, dog plays a role in psychological deterrence. Sometimes if you are going into a compound to go and commit a crime and you begin to hear the bark of a dog, you know that maybe somebody is watching you, or you've been seen in your hideout. So that's what the role of dog plays, psychological deterrence. But some people are scared of dog. I don't think if you see a German Shepherd, you want to go to that polling unit to go and cast your vote. The reason why these guys want to go there with dogs is for them to carry out their own policing system. They've lost faith in the policing system with all the show of force and all the warnings from the military headquarters, from the police headquarters, that snatch ballot box and pay with your life. Nobody is saying that people are snatching ballot boxes and enjoying their lives, which tells you that we don't have respect for our national security architecture. So for me, I would not advise people to go to the ballot unit with boxes, with dogs, but I will advise them to also be prepared, because don't be taken unaware. Most of these guys, they also come prepared. You see, most of these criminal guys, they come prepared, and anything. If you go there with your dogs, what they want to do is to shoot at your dog and escape, find an escape route. So I think they should just take a departure from that dog security. It's not going to play a better role.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I think that someone also tried to clarify with the with the Nigerian police, and they stated that the Dogs Act 55 LFN 2004 is a federal legislation which only is applicable in Abuja and the FCT, and also states clearly that you can carry out you can move with your dogs. They just have to be on a leash or muscle or some of all of that. So it's not, the police actually got it wrong where in their statements. But now let's talk about thuggery generally in Nigeria's elections. It's 2023. We would have assumed that this died in 2003. And that we no longer would be seeing, people being sent to snatch ballot boxes and to intimidate voters, maybe maximum 2007. But when 2023,
yeah.
And it is still very popular. It's still popular even in Lagos State. They don't even leave it for the most rural areas. Even in Etiosa, you still see people being used to disrupt the electoral process. So let's talk about that and why we've not been able to move away from that. Why are we still so backward with our leadership recruitment process?
Fantastic question. You see, you remember the last time some talks went into the National Assembly?
Yes.
And cut with our national news. When I saw that incident, I actually said Nigeria is finished. You see, what we've been doing all this while is that our leaders have been certifying crime. Certification of crime is one of the major problems we have in this country. And what they do is that they capitalize on the vulnerability of these guys. You cannot, just imagine somebody comes to approach this pretty lady and say she go and snatch a ballot box. I don't think you agree with any amount, even with 100 million. I don't think you're going to do that.
I won't try it.
You never try that because you are not vulnerable. What they do is that they capitalize on those vulnerable ones and make use of these guys. And at the end of the day, these vulnerable ones, after spending this cash that this politician gave them to go and cut away or steal those ballot boxes, they now resort to crime. And they now become a pest to the society. So for me, if we set a board of inquiry, to ascertain the root cause analysis of most of these incidents, it's going to assist us greatly in this great nation. Because for me, I feel so bad when I see these guys snatching boxes. I don't think it's their wish to do that. I think because of their vulnerable state. And that is why poverty has been weaponized.
Absolutely.
If poverty has not been weaponized, I don't think most of these politicians will think they can send these guys. And if you see most of these guys, we take them out of the street, they'll become better citizens. So we need people that will come and take these guys out of the street. If you take them out of the street, we are mitigating crime. Now, let's not get it wrong. We will live with crime till eternity. Yeah. That is the truth. There is no time in the present time or years to come that crime will be eradicated or eliminated. We will live with crime till eternity. The only reason why we are going to enjoy this society is when we mitigate crime to as low as reasonably acceptable. Take, for example, Lagos State, for example. The crime rate in Lagos is slim compared to the crime rate in other states. If we have a low crime rate in a society, it's going to assist us greatly. But for me, our politicians have weaponized poverty and using that methodology to capitalize on the vulnerability of most of these guys, this loud on the street, this street urchins, they're supposed to be in school, they're supposed to be doing their business. Well, if we have a new administration, I will advise, take them off the street, give them life, give them accommodation, send them to school. The society will be a better place. If we don't do that, these guys will be a threat to the society because it is, they are a potential threat to the government.
Would you say that there's a relationship with between the insecurity in the nation and that of elections? And I ask this because what we did see was, we cover the newspapers every morning, and there are usually headlines of people that have been kidnapped, bandit attacks, but during the elections, we barely saw that. And as soon as the elections were concluded, we've seen what's happening in southern Kaduna. So is there any relationship? Some people have begun to draw some lines between the insecurity in the nation and that and the elections and making some...
Do kidnappers vote?
Yeah.
Well, basically, in the past 3 months, most of these criminal elements went on vacation. And I don't know where they spent the vacation. I can't say where they spent the vacation. But you rightly asked a very sensitive question. During the Naira conflict between the CBN, Supreme Court, and the federal government, the rate of kidnapping reduced so drastically. The rate of banditry also reduced. And even during the election processes, banditry also reduced. Now, after the presidential election, we heard about multiple capturing and kidnapping of our Nigerian people from the northeast, northwest, and other parts of the country. This tells me clearly that what we're suffering from this country is politically motivated. It's so sad that in a nation where we have beautiful people, blessed nation with natural resources, we have some few individuals that think they will capitalize on the vulnerable state of our security agent, because we have a capable security agent that are not politicized. Because it is the military, the police, all our security agents are politicized, and that is the truth. Because I can tell you for free that most police officers, you see them now running to the president-elect, running to governor-elect, say, sir, please, I need promotion, I need appointment, whatever the case may be.
We cannot say in absolute terms that all.
No, not all, some. Okay, that's my own view.
Okay.
So I will advise that our security agent must rise up to these tasks and protect our constitution.
All right, final thoughts as we count down to the gubernatorial elections in a few days. How can people better be alert, protect themselves, and what can we do to ensure that we have minimal casualties during
you learn from previous experience, know your environment. Like my brother was talking about some places like Alimosho. If policemen are coming with their arms and ammunition, those guys will not be scared of them. So that's where they need to go and carry an assessment of that environment. Like if you want to vote, for example, in XYZ location, you need to carry out an assessment of that environment, because the whole essence for you to go and cast your vote is not to put your life at risk or put your life in line of danger. It's for you to cast your vote and vote credible people. So I would advise Nigerians to look at their polling units, assess the environment, be aware of their street, don't talk to strangers, also be aware of stranger danger as well. And also be careful, because sometimes there's one popular slogan going on now. A lot of people think they are going to carry out such slogan. In your polling unit, just cast your vote, keep quiet, obey the officials there, wait, let your vote be counted, then go back home. They must not walk alone, because this time around, governorship election will be very tense.
Absolutely.
And other people should make sure they protect their high-powered zone as well.
Absolutely. And of course, it's also important to remind politicians to stop hitting up the polity with these, statements of, tribalism and bigotry and religion.
So sad.
It's heartbreaking. But thanks very much, Dickson Osagie, for your time. Good speaking with you as always.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.